can bank on it. You can put 100 grand on it. Anything I said, I'll stamp on it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. So I know I switched up on you guys. I was doing the weekly vlogs, but now I've been doing more tutorials, and that's just because I feel like they're more informational. So let's get right into it. So as you can see here, I'm using 3 backdrops for this setup. These backdrops are custom wood panels. I had somebody on Instagram ask me the other day what width they were, but to be completely honest with you, I'm not sure because I get them made by Dream Props MIA here in South Florida. So what he does is he cuts the panels however I want them in whatever shape, and he puts Velcro. It's a really strong Velcro that he uses, like an industrial one. And he puts the scratchy side on the backdrop and the fuzzy side on the leg. So that just makes it super easy for me to put on and off the leg. So that's what you see me doing there. But here I'm just adding the, basically I would call them pressure points. And these points are basically just 260s that I like to go ahead and put from beforehand, just based on where the design is going. This just helps me move a lot faster, and it also helps me, helps my balloons not pop, because what I'm doing is as soon as I'm taking the balloon out of the U-Haul truck, U-Haul trailer, I'm going straight into attaching them on, because I don't have to stop and, pause, whatever. So with this design, it's going to be going through the wood panel, over the middle, and over the left side, coming down, and then just be a little full at the bottom. I would say that I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a little tired of seeing these same backdrop combinations, but that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. So you can see here that I obviously have a lot of old hooks as well. These are the really strong Amazon command hooks. I always put them behind backdrops, whether they are mine or a vendor's. And that's simply because these are extremely hard to get off and they can be damaging to the wood. So that's why I do that. And honestly, I use that, and I also use staple guns to put the 260. It just depends on what I feel like using. But sometimes I put the 260 where it's hanging long, and sometimes I make it into a whole loop. So I always prep my balloon garlands. That's something that I feel like is a non-negotiable for me as a balloon artist. And that's just because I feel like people don't realize the amount of time and energy that goes into doing these setups, and I just don't have the energy to actually blow up balloons as I'm setting them up. I'm going to be completely honest with you. As you can see, I have my little table set up on the right hand side. I do, keep my pump ready. I keep all my extra balloons ready, but if I don't need to use them, I do not use them. So here, I'm not putting the ladder behind there yet, because I obviously have to finish decorating, the rest of the backdrop. So that's why I did not put it there yet. I'm just placing the balloons just to know where I want them and what colors I want where. Let me say this. As I'm doing these tutorials, I'm realizing the way that I just magically know in my brain, just out of habit, what goes where, and how many to do for each side and how many to do for each panel is honestly insane, because I promise you guys, I do not do mock-ups. That's not something that I offer. If you do want a mock-up, I do. Just ask a graphic designer to put it together for me, and you pay them. But I don't do them. I just go based off of the inspiration photo, along with however I want to tweak it and how my style is. And I just know. It's so weird. I seriously just know off the top of my head. So here with this installation, what I did was I put together the base of my garland. So these are all clusters of 8 that I put together using the 260s, right? And then what I did was all the extra clusters of 8, I just left separate, because I know I wanted to build it out to be a little bit, more than a little bit fuller, but I wanted it to be fuller. So I just took my time and just went through and added on, but what I did was some parts I only needed to add for a quad, which is a set of 4, and some I needed a set of 8, so I would just split it if that was the case. Like just use the scissors and cut it in half. But for the most part, I ended up using all the sets of 8, and I feel like this helps me move a lot faster, and I like the way it looks, to be honest with you. Like I said previously, I am working on adjusting my style and trying to figure out what my balloon style is going to be, especially with my recent rebrand. And I just feel like I'm to the point where I think I'm good off of the big balloons. I have been using them just to get them out of my inventory, but I just think going forward, they aren't going to be something that I buy, because unless it's something where it's an open concept like an arch or like just something big or like a big oversized garland, I don't necessarily like how the big balloons look. And I tried it out with this particular install, and I'm really pleased with how it came out. So I'm glad that I did that, and I've been just trying different things. So here I'm just putting the points on the floor. So like I said, I'm doing the H method, which is just basically taking a piece of duct tape and running it across. I have the loop from the 260, and then I'm just securing both ends of that strip with more duct tape. So it creates an H, and that helps the duct tape to stay on the floor. I do not like to put the really sticky command hooks on people's floor if I don't have to, and if I do, like I said previously, I use painter's tape. So here, all I'm doing is filling it out. I'm just making it fuller. And the way I attach them is with 260s. So I just take the 260 and I wrap it inside. I like to use 260s for adding in the sets of 8, mainly because I'm able to hoist it better together. And it just gives it a better tight and condensed look. I already put the ladder behind the arch, so that's why it's starting to fall properly. I don't know if you guys seen another video I did recently. I did not put the ladder, and it kind of frustrated me the way it looked. But yeah, so what I'm doing here is I'm just putting in the balloons to fluff out the design, and I decided to opt out of any jumbos or any 16-inch balloons. Usually I would still put the jumbos as long as they're going behind the setup, like behind the install. But the reason why I didn't was because it was so hot. I didn't want any of the jumbo balloons to end up popping and leaving a gap. So I'd rather just not put it. And as you can see, it's pretty shaded here, but over time, a few of them did pop, but honestly, it was so many balloons, you couldn't even tell. So my method for this, you can basically say, was to build a full garland and put 8 sets of 8 together. And I just feel like putting the sets of 8 together and making a garland, but keeping the pieces condensed to about 4 is honestly your best bet, because you get to maneuver it a lot more and a lot easier versus if you make it really long. So that's why you've seen I had a couple pieces that I separated or just kept separate, and then I just put them together as I was building it out. But I just did a really good job at estimating how much I needed for the installation. So what I'm trying to start to do is always build out my bottom, so widen out the bottom and widen out the ends, because I feel like it makes the install look bigger and grander than it actually is. And I noticed that when it comes to putting balloons on the top, like if you look at the white panel, I don't like for that to be too thick. I like for it to be some sort of dimension. I feel like previously, when I would do install, sometimes I would make it the same width all around, and I feel like it would look super boxy, and that's just not the look that I want to go for. So that's why I did that. So here I'm just adding in the 5-inch. Like I said before, I'm going to start using the rubber bands now for the 5-inch, and I wasn't at first, but now that I am not using as many large balloons, it is calling for me to use a little bit more 5-inch, and I want to be able to place them exactly where I want them, which is in the gaps. And I feel like rubber bands are just easier to do that with versus using the 260 balloons. The 260 balloons are still really great. I just feel like I get a easier placement when it comes to the rubber bands for the 5-inch. So that's why I do what I do with that. So here I'm just filling it in, and I'm somebody that I only put the 5-inch together with the color that it was already in. Personally, I don't like any sort of mixed balloon styles. I like everything color blocked, and I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose when people color block and then put the opposite color or put random colors with the 5-inch against the 11-inch or 9-inch. I don't know, that's just me, my preference. I just personally don't like how it looks. So something I want to say that's like super random is the people that are walking back and forth, they are doing soft play. We used to have a soft play. I want to make a whole video about the whole rental business and the ugly truth behind it, because people do not understand. Me and these people came here at the same time, right? I'm 90% sure I got paid more than they got paid. Granted, their items are rental items and some of mine are as well, but I promise you, the amount of work these people did, and I was just casually just walking around, strolling around, doing my balloons. I understand that it's good money, but you have to be very careful with high maintenance rental items, because babe, when I tell you, I was watching those people and I felt so bad for them. And it was so funny because I kept seeing like the client, her and her husband were just looking at them like, these poor people. But thankfully they had like a shade over them. But my God. But anyways, so yeah, that was my quick little tidbit. But anyways, I ran out of gray 5-inch, so I just ended up using the hand pump. I never do that. When I have 5-inch to blow up, I use my inflators, whether it's my cheap Amazon pump or my $350 Air Force pump inflator. I use the pump to blow up my 5-inch. I've seen other balloon artists on YouTube, for whatever reason, and social media use what's the thing called, hand pumps to do for their 5-inch, and I don't understand the method behind it. But anyways, so I was just cleaning up a little bit, just because as I'm finishing up, I like to start to clean. I don't like to just leave a big mess. I like to stop and just take a minute to just tidy up what I'm doing. I don't know if you guys seen, well, you probably did see, those big bags I had. Those are U-Haul mattress bags, in case you were wondering. And then the small bags, those are just clear garbage bags that you can buy on Amazon, and just basically buy them based on the gallon. So I can't even lie to you, I haven't bought those bags in so long. I don't know what size they are, but if you go on Amazon and type in clear disposable trash bags, oversized, you'll see them. And they come in like a roll, and they're really handy for the 5-inch because I like to keep them separate from everything else I'm doing. So here's the first part of the vinyl. This vinyl I did not print myself. I did get this from Dream Props, and of course the video cut out where I was actually applying it onto the backdrop. But I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I do rip off the entire transfer paper when I'm doing big vinyl installs like that, because I feel like it's easier to place the vinyl in the right position without having to, like keep trying to readjust it. And I just feel like it's so nerve-wracking, because obviously these things cannot come off. Once it's on, it's on. So I just rip off the whole thing, and then I place it and like adjust it, just to make sure it's aligned. So these I did print myself on the Cricut. So with this, honestly, this will be the last time I'm doing this like this, because what I did was, instead of prepping all the transfer paper and having the letters prepped and ready, I was being cheap and I didn't want to waste all my transfer paper. So I was cutting each letter and putting the transfer paper so I could reuse the transfer paper per letter because of the way I was placing it. So what I did was I placed one, right? And then once I placed that one, I put painter's tape to try to place the others. Now, let me explain before you guys watch me lose my damn brain cells. So let me explain something. I usually do not use vinyl. I always try to use foam board because I'm able to move it and adjust it, especially when it comes to designs like this. But I was not able to. And honestly, vinyl does give a better look sometimes. So I'm trying to just get better with vinyl. So what I was trying to do is take painter's tape and position it so I could see like where I wanted to place it. But then obviously we see that how that went. But it was good enough to just let me know where to start at. So that's what I did. I ended up moving it over like a little bit, but the only reason why I was able to still pick it up was because the transfer tape was on it and I didn't scrape it off onto the backdrop yet. So that's what I basically did there. And I know there is a way to print it and not use individual letters, but I really don't have time for that. Like, you need the arch measurements and all of that. I just rather print it out individually. These letters are about 8 inches. I feel like that was a really good size. The last time when I did my niece and nephew's party, I did about 6 inches. So I wanted it a little bit bigger. But yeah, the only weird thing is that like the letters don't curve properly. So like it looks like I didn't place it right, but I did. It just wasn't curved. Like curved to the actual backdrop, so that's why. But nonetheless, it still came out really cute and it was fine. So what I did here was I basically took off the transfer tape after each time and then I placed it onto the vinyl. And if you guys aren't really familiar how vinyl works, especially Cricut vinyl, the transfer tape for Cricut is actually not as sticky as other transfer tapes, which is really good because you don't want it too sticky that it's really hard to get it onto the board or get it to transfer. And I like that over time it actually makes it easier to rip it off because it's being reused. So I just continue to place that. Obviously, this is like the big one theme. This was my first time doing it for an actual party. The last time I did it was for a photo shoot and it was really cute. But I'm glad I got to do it for an actual party this time. So once I was finished with that, I wanted to add like the chain balloons inside. These things look like they're hard, but they are not. They are super simple. All you want to do is take the balloon pump, blow up the 260, and look at the bottom of my 260s. They have about, I want to say 6 inches of room at the bottom, and that's what allows you to twist it around, right? So you take 4 260s, and what you do is you tie all the tips together, like you tie 2 and 2, right? Then you just cross them at the top. When you cross them at the top, like you spin it around a couple times, you'll see that you basically have like a plus sign, right? You just take 2 of the opposite and twist it, and then you wrap around the other 2 and you just continue twisting it. Obviously, you can see here, like this wasn't the best tutorial because it was a little bit sped up, but really and truly, even when it comes to putting them in, it's not hard at all. You just take a 260 and put it on each side and you just wrap them inside of the garland. So you always want to stretch the 260 out completely first, like a few times, just so that it blows up longer. So all I'm doing is folding it. So I'm just taking 2, putting it together. It's kind of like a twist, like if you want to think of it that way, and you put them together and you squeeze and you just twist them. And it seems nerve-wracking at first, but I promise you, because you left the space at the bottom, it's not hard. If you want to see like good, slower tutorials, just type in balloon 260 gold chain link, and if you want to like see somebody explain it properly. And then I just pop the ends. I just take a scissor and snip it, and then I tie it in a knot, so you would have 4 different ends. And yeah, I just put the 260 at the bottom of it and put the 260 at the top, and that way I'm able to just wrap it inside of my garland however I need to. So let me take a minute to explain this though. So with 260s, they are very fragile. These are the balloons that, if you're completely new to doing balloons, these are the balloons that people and balloon artists use for balloon animals, right? Like clowns and stuff. These balloons are very fragile. You cannot prep these from way, way ahead in advance. Honestly, I could have done them before I got to installation, but I wanted them to be included in the video, so that's why I did not. But to be honest with you, these things do not do well in heat. I got very lucky that, you know, like it was a shaded area, so they didn't deflate. But 260s pop very easily because obviously with heat and balloons, heat makes balloons expand, right? So the 260s don't have that much leeway as like a 9-inch or a 5-inch or a 16-inch balloon to really expand, so they pop very easily. And then when they pop, usually they pop in a space or area that it can't really come back from. So it ends up just looking weird when you place it inside of the garland. So that's why it's really important to either do these the morning or like right before you get to the installation, or do them at the installation. Obviously, if you have a lot, just prep them, but just understand that not all of them are going to withhold in the same way. So this came out super, super, super cute. And I'm really pleased with the overall look of it. I really, really enjoyed doing this. I had a really good time just being at the client's house. Like, some people just really have really good energy, and this just happened to be one of those clients that they just leave me alone, let me do my thing, and they just tell me it looks great and they're satisfied with exactly how it came out. So I really appreciate when I get clients like that. So I did have to come back and break down things to take the backdrops. So I do use the balloon striker, as you can see here, and I just whack away at the balloons. So that's the end of the tutorial. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you guys so much for watching yet another video and another tutorial. See you next time.